Lesbian detective. Unsolved cases. She's still missing. Yeah, they haven't found her yet. Well, let's talk about it.
They say he vanished without a trace. Could it be a psychotic break or a tragic accident? Police don't know where the body went. Unsolved murders, body still missing. That's unheard. Where's the witness? Lesbian detectives, what's going on? City on high alert, this out the norm. He did what, the who? Man, that ain't real, these crimes ain't true. Then come uncover these theories with us. We live right now, tuning in is a must.
Right now, lesbian detective, lesbian detective. We about to start the show, so get your popcorn ready to go. Pay attention to the message I present to you, the lesbian detectives.
This is Lesbian Detectives. I'm Sierra.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And we are here to talk about missing and unsolved murders.
We are discussing cases you have forgotten about or never even heard of.
So sit back, relax, and let's start this podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm so glad to be back. And guys, as we're recording this, my vacation is less than a week away. So it's not this episode. It's not next week episode because we're going to be officially out of town that week. But it's coming. It's coming, guys. I can't wait. Well, it's actually next week, but I'm excited. I have been waiting because I have not had a vacation in so long. And then, I'm also nervous because, this is the first one without my daughter. We have been away from her for, a couple hours or even a night. But, this is the first time, me and her going to be away from each other. I don't know if it's really going to bother her as much as it's going to bother me. I'm going to be out enjoying myself, but I'm still gonna miss my daughter.
You have separation issues.
We both do.
We need to cut that umbilical cord.
For which one?
Both. No, probably for you. Shit, I don't think she really cares.
Sometimes she cares. Sometimes when she's over somebody's house, she's like, "Mama, I'm ready to go." She be ready to go. So it's like, no, sweetheart, you gotta wait 5 days and then you get to go home. So
dang, selfish.
I know you were talking. How many vacations have you took without me and her?
Not 5 days.
Yeah, your vacations are not that long. It's basically, guys, a weekend, really. Or sometimes a day. She went to Las Vegas for a day. Physically a full day and came back. We went to New York. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And you came back Monday. Well, let's say my favorite line ever. Now, let's get into the episode. It was just after 3 a.m. in late winter, and the snow is coming down hard enough to blur the edges of everything under the streetlights. Most of the city is quiet. Stores are closed, roads are nearly empty. The kind of night where nothing much is supposed to happen. But in a parking lot just off a busy road, a car is still running, and someone is still sitting inside alone. For nearly an hour, the car doesn't move. Then, without warning, another car pulls in. A man gets out. He walks towards the driver's side. And for a brief moment, their interaction, something calm enough that the window is rolled down. Nothing about it looks like danger until it isn't. A single shot breaks the silence of the night, and in the second that follows, the situation turns into something almost impossible to process. Because even after being struck, the driver doesn't stay still. The car moves. It crosses lanes. It makes it into another parking lot just across the road, while witnesses inside nearby buildings look on, trying to understand what they're seeing unfold in real time. And then the second vehicle follows. What happened next has been pieced together from fragments. What witnesses saw, what camera captured, what evidence was left behind in the car after the scene went quiet again. A suspect description was given. A vehicle was identified. Physical evidence was collected, and yet no one has ever been arrested. No confirmed identity, no closure, no explanation that fully makes sense of why that night happened the way it did. This is a case defined not just by what was done, but by everything that still isn't known. This is the case of Jodi Elizabeth LeCornu. Jodi was born on October 29, 1970, and grew up in Baltimore County with her identical twin sister Jenny. From the beginning, they shared everything: bedrooms, class, friends. If you knew one of them, you knew both. But despite looking identical, their personalities were different in ways that balanced each other out. Jodi was outgoing. She was the one who talked to everyone, who made friends easily, who brought energy into a room. Jenny was more reserved, more cautious, and a lot of people who knew them said Jodi helped bring Jenny out of her shell. They had a close bond, one that didn't fade even as they got older. But their childhood wasn't without challenges. Addiction ran in their family, and both girls were exposed to it early. By the time they was around 12 years old, they were already struggling with substance use themselves. It's something that their parents eventually intervened in, sending them to treatment programs while they were still very young. Even after that, it wasn't a clear break. Recovery is complicated, especially when you're returning to your same environment. As they got older, the twins started to take slightly different paths. Jenny decided she needed distance from everything familiar. She moved away, eventually ended up on the West Coast, trying to build a life that felt separate from the struggle she grew up with. Jodi stayed in Maryland. She came back determined to make things work. She enrolled in Towson University. She started working part-time at a bank. She was building something stable, something that looked like a fresh start. She also met a boyfriend during treatment, and the two of them were living together along with a roommate. To most people, Jodi seemed like she was doing well. She had friends, a job, a routine. She was social, independent, and still had the same warmth people always been drawn to. But she wasn't without struggles. She dealt with anxiety, and people close to her said when things got overwhelming, she could act impulsive, not reckless, exactly, but emotionally. Especially when things in her life felt unstable. And in the late February of 1996, things started to feel unstable again. On February 29th, Jodi got into a serious argument with her boyfriend. It wasn't just a minor disagreement. It carried into the next morning. By the time she left for work on March the 1st, things were still tense. At some point during the argument, he told her not to come home that night. It might have been said out of anger. It might not have been meant literally. But Jodi took it seriously. Instead of going somewhere safe, like her parents' house, she made a series of decisions that night that were completely out of character. After work, she met with some friends at the Mount Washington Tavern, a place she went to often. But this time was different. Her friends left. Jodi stayed. Hours passed. The snow kept falling. The bar eventually closed around 2 a.m. And instead of heading home from there, the night becomes hard to explain. Because instead of going somewhere familiar, Jodi agreed to give an employee a ride. Jodi had dropped the employee off in a nearby neighborhood, and by that point it was already well past 2 a.m. With snow still steadily falling across Baltimore, instead of heading somewhere familiar, she made a couple of stops, first at a ATM to withdraw cash, and then a nearby shop where she brought a 6-pack of beer. Small, ordinary decisions that, in hindsight, felt like a beginning of something much bigger. After that, she drove to Castle Shopping Center, just a few miles away, and parked her white Honda Civic in the lot. From the reason no one has ever been able to fully understand, she stayed there for nearly an hour, alone in the car while the snow continued to fall around her. Sometime after 3 a.m., Jodi began making phone calls from her car phone. She first tried calling the bar manager, but he was still busy closing up and he couldn't talk. So the call didn't last long. So then she reached out to someone, a friend connected to a former roommate. And while the exact nature of the conversation has never been confirmed, investigators later speculate she may have been trying to reconnect over something from her past. Still, there is never any physical evidence to support their theory, leaving the call just another unanswered question in a night full of them. By around 3:40 a.m., the parking lot was nearly empty, with only a few scattered cars and almost no movement. Then, when a white BMW pulled in and parked close to Jodi's car, witnesses would later say that they saw a man get out and approach her, and what's striking is that Jodi didn't react with fear. She rolled down her window and spoke to him, suggesting that, at least in that moment, nothing about the interaction seemed immediately threatening. At some point, the man turned and walked back to his BMW for a brief moment. It may have seemed like the encounter was over, but then, without warning, everything shifted. The man pulled out a gun and fired a single shot into Jodi's car. The bullet entered through the back window, passing through the driver's seat, striking her in a way that severed her spine. What happened next is almost impossible to comprehend. Despite how badly she was hurt, Jodi was still conscious and somehow able to act, pressing the gas and pulling her car out of the parking lot and onto York Road. In the dark, snowy condition, she managed to cross multiple lanes and make it into a parking lot of York Road Plaza across the street. Her movement unsteady, but driven by a pure instinct to survive. Inside a nearby grocery store, employees heard the gunshot and rushed towards the windows just in time to see Jodi's car come to a stop after hitting a curb. But what happened next made the situation even more chilling. The white BMW followed her across the street, making sure she could no longer move.
Then, in a detail that has never been fully explained, he leaned into the vehicle and removed something from inside before calmly returning to his car and driving away into the night. Police arrived within minutes of the 911 calls, but despite the quick response, there was nothing they could do. Jodi LeCornu was pronounced dead. What makes this case especially frustrating is that investigators weren't starting from nothing. They had witnesses who saw pieces of what happened. They had a consistent description of the suspect, and they even had physical evidence pulled from Jodi's car. Multiple people described a black male, late 20s to early 30s, stocky build, wearing a camouflage-style jacket and driving a white BMW that was seen both at the original parking lot and following Jodi across the street. There was also forensic evidence collected from the vehicle's fingerprints, lifted from both inside and outside the car. But when those prints were ran through the database at the time, there was no match. That meant no immediate identification, no quick arrest, and no clear direction for detectives to move in. From there, the investigation began to slow down in a way that would later become a major point of frustration for Jodi's family. Detectives explored several theories early on. One was that Jodi may have been involved in a drug-related encounter that went wrong, especially because of her past history and treatment programs as a teenager. But investigators never found drugs in her system. There was no confirmed evidence that she was actively involved in anything like that at the time of her death. Another theory was robbery, since something was reportedly taken from her car after she was shot. But that theory also raised problems. If it was a simple robbery, why approach her directly, speak with her, leave, return with a weapon, and then follow her after she had already been shot? It didn't fit the pattern of a typical opportunistic crime. And then there was the most unsettling possibility. that Jodi knew her killer because she didn't react with fear when the man approached her window. She rolled it down, she engaged with him. That detail alone suggested a level of comfort or familiarity that investigators could never fully explain. Pronounced dead at the scene at just 23 years old, despite of all of this, leads began to dry up. The white BMW was never definitively traced back to a suspect. The fingerprints didn't match anyone in existing systems at the time, and while tips did come in, none of them led to a solid identification. Over time, the case began to lose momentum, eventually becoming one of those files that never fully closes, but also never moves forward. And that's when Jodi's twin sister, Jenny, stepped in and refused to let it fade away. For Jenny, the lack of answers wasn't something she could accept. These weren't just strangers working a case. This was her sister, the person she had shared her entire life with. And from the very beginning, she believed something had gone wrong in the investigation, not just in terms of the crime itself, but in how quickly it seemed to stall afterward. She started by requesting access to the case files, hoping that reviewing everything might give her or a private investigator she hired some new perspective. But that request was denied. Police told her the case was still active and releasing the files could compromise the investigation. Instead, she was offered the chance to come in and view them under supervision, something she felt wasn't enough given how long had already passed. Unsatisfied, Jenny escalated things legally. She filed a formal request and eventually pursued legal action against the Baltimore County Police Department in an attempt to force the release of the case file to her investigator. At the same time, she began publicly questioning whether key steps had been missed early on, whether witnesses had been fully followed up with, whether physical evidence had been retested as technology improved, and whether the case had received the urgency it deserved in those first critical months. Around this time, she also began reaching out to other law enforcement agencies, hoping someone outside the original department might be willing to take another look. There was even an offer from Baltimore City investigators to assist with this case, bringing in additional resources and manpower. But that offer was ultimately declined, leaving the investigation entirely in the hands of the original agency. Still, Jenny didn't stop. As years passed with no arrests, she shifted from legal pressure to public pressure. She organized awareness campaigns, spoke publicly about her sister, and eventually helped place billboards around Baltimore featuring Jodi's photo, her story, and a reward for information leading to an arrest. The goal was simple: keep her sister's name visible long enough that someone, somewhere, would finally come forward. The billboards generated tips, some credible, most not, but none of that led to a breakthrough. Still, Jenny continued, even when the case went cold. In the official sense, she treated it like it was still active every single day. Because for her, this was never just about justice in the legal sense. It was about the fact that someone knew what happened that night. Someone saw a man in a white BMW. Someone knew why he approached Jodi's car. And someone, somewhere, had never spoken up. Until that happens, Jenny isn't walking away from it. And that's where this case sits today. No arrest, no confirmed suspect. No answers that explain why that man in the white BMW pulled into a quiet, snow-covered parking lot and changed everything for the 23-year-old woman who was just trying to figure out her life. Over the years, every piece of this case has been picked apart. Those final phone calls, the decision to sit in that parking lot, the moment she rolled down her window, and the seconds that followed. But even with witnesses, physical evidence, and a clear description of the suspect, nothing has ever led to an arrest in the murder of Jodi LeCornu. And that's what makes it so haunting. This isn't a case where no one saw anything. People did. This isn't a case where there were no leads. There were. It's a case where everything seemed to be there, except the person responsible for her twin sister, Jenny. That gap has become a lifelong mission. She has spent decades pushing for answers, questioning decisions made early in the investigation, and refusing to let her sister become just another unsolved file sitting in a cabinet. Even when official momentum slowed, Jenny kept going, requesting records, speaking publicly, working with outside investigators, and putting Jodi's face back into the public eye whenever it started to fade. Because for her, the hardest part isn't just the loss, it's the silence that followed it. Somewhere out there, someone knows what happened in the parking lot off of York Road in 1996. Someone knows why Jodi was approached. Someone knows what was taken from her car. And someone knows why a man walked away from that scene and was never identified. Until that person comes forward or until new evidence finally breaks the case open, this remains exactly what it has been for decades: an unsolved murder built on witness accounts, physical evidence, and a sister who refuses to stop asking questions. Jodi LeCornu's story doesn't end with her death. It continues in every unanswered question, every trip that goes nowhere, and every year that passes without justice. And the hope still held onto by those who love her the most is that one day someone will finally decide to speak. Before we end this case, let's remember the victim. Jodi LeCornu was 23 years old. She was somebody who loved deeply, showed up for people in her life, and carried more weight than most people even realized. She was a twin, a daughter, a friend, someone who had spent her life trying to move forward even when the past made it difficult. She wasn't just a name in a case file or a headline in a report. She was the kind of person who could walk into the room and change the energy of it without trying. She had flaws, like everyone does, but she was still building something for herself. She was still in the middle of her story, and then, in a parking lot on a snowy night in March of 1996, that story was taken from her. What's left behind is a family that never got answers, a twin sister, Jenny, who had spent decades trying to fill a silence that never should have existed, and a case that still sits open with questions no one has been able to fully answer. There's something especially hard about cases like this, not just the violence, but the uncertainty that follows. The fact that people saw something, the fact that evidence exists, the fact that even after all this time, there is still a possibility that someone out there knows exactly what happened and hasn't said a word. Jodi deserves more than silence. She deserves the truth. She deserves accountability. And she deserves to be remembered as more than just the night her life was taken. So when we think about this case, it's not just about the unknown man in the white BMW or the woman whose life mattered, whose presence mattered, and whose story is still waiting for its final chapter. And maybe one day that chapter will finally be written in justice. Joanne Jodi Elizabeth LeCornu. Now let's get into some theories.
Theories.
Let's get into some theories. Let's get into some theories. Everyone is a suspect until proven guilty. Let's get into some theories. Let's begin detectives. What type of thoughts you thinking? What theories running through your mind? I'm thinking all types of suspicion. Uncover the truth, what we can find. Witness say they saw somebody creeping out the back door. What you think they did it for? That's so crazy, I'm not sure. They found a car, where could she be? Here go another puzzle piece. Researching through your history. It's plenty unsolved mysteries. Everyone is a suspect until proven guilty. Let's get into some theories, yeah. Let's get into some theories. Let's get into some theories. Everyone is a suspect until proven guilty. Let's get into some theories. Let's begin detectives.
You or me?
Good.
I'm stuck. Like, I have so many theories, but none of them kind of go together. Like, I'm just like all over everything because my main thing is like, why is the police hiding this case? Like, they won't let you see like the evidence. Well, of course you can't see the evidence, but like they won't let you see the case record or nothing. And I'm gonna say it's kind of easy to get case records. You just can request it and they will give it to you. For them, like, no, you're not getting this. It's something in that file that they do not want to be out. And like, I'm thinking about her. I'm like, okay, I ain't gonna lie, I did think, okay, she probably was getting drugs. Even though the police said, hey, like, it wasn't in her system, but for her to go get cash, sit there, and then she called her friend, I want to know what her and their friend was talking about, because what if she was like telling her friend, like, yes, I can't do it, like, I just need drugs, because she was going through something. For her and her boyfriend to fight like that, and they both was like users, and he was like, hey, don't come back here tonight. It had to be with like substance. It had to that fight had to be with substance. I mean, he can come back and say like no, it wasn't, but I don't know. It seemed like something like that fight, how intense it was. It had to be that problem, because she's supposed to have been sober, but she was drinking beer. And with her story, she was an alcoholic at the age of 12. So it's like she shouldn't be drinking beer or going to a bar and stuff like that. That's not part of the program. But to me, it's she got the money out the ATM. That's what I'm stuck at. Like, she got that money. She went and got some beer. And then she went and she called the bar owner, like the bar manager. So for her to call him, and I'm not saying all bar managers are like that, but I know sometimes they do side gigs, like sell drugs. But so then she called her other friend, and I'm like, okay, for her not to be scared that this man is coming to her car this late at night. Like, it's 3 a.m. and this man is coming to my car. I'm nervous. I'm not rolling down the window. And hearing how her family talk about her, she was very cautious. Like, she took classes to protect herself. So for her just to roll the window down and talk to this man, she knew him, or she knew why he was there. But I want to know what happened. Like, did she not pay him or something? Like, why did you shoot her? That's the part I'm so confused on. Like, if she was there to get, drugs, why did she get shot? Because it seemed like she had the money. She gave him the money. But he did go back and get whatever it was. I think if he was selling her drugs, he got those drugs back because that could connect him back. Because, some drug dealers, they have a certain, like, logo on it. So that's a possibility, but I'm just stuck. I'm stuck on, like, I don't know. I'm stuck. Yeah, help me out.
I was going with that same theory. So I personally know somebody who was addicted to drugs. And to me, I feel like it's all or nothing. If you're an addict, you either in sobriety or you're relapsing. So because they had a big fight, I can see why she would relapse. I think she was going out trying to buy drugs. Maybe she was calling somebody so they could give her a contact or provide. Maybe it was the first time that she engaged with this individual, or just randomly found somebody. Who knows if they were legit or not. But I do feel like she relapsed that night just because she was drinking and she had just had a fight. She took money out. Exactly what you said. I do feel that. And this person, like, in a BMW, that does sound like somebody who would sell something like that.
With the gun in the car, too.
A gun, like somebody that's prepared, and then you're dressed up in like camouflage clothing. Like, it just seems. Now, I don't understand what the misinterpretation, miscommunication, or what the beef was between the two. He just probably didn't trust her. Maybe he thought she was undercover, or just something. If something's off for them, like, they're gonna do what's safest for them, which is off you. Like, he didn't trust it, so he got rid of her and took back what was his. I feel. But you have to be really careful when you're buying from somebody, and if they feel like any kind of bit of, oh, something's off, that's the way that they know how to, like, keep you hush hush. But it could be that, or it could be that the boyfriend got mad to the point where he hired somebody to get rid of her, which I don't really see that happening. Because every couple kind of fights, but I guess it just depends how intense their fight was. If there's something that he had to lose, but I do believe that it was her attempting to buy some illicit substance.
Yeah, for the police to say like that last phone call she had, they're not clear of what happened in that phone call because they had to go and talk to this person. They had to go talk to this person. So for you, like, oh, like we assuming like this is a conversation and this is what happened. Something happened in that conversation, and that's why that man was there. So I just want to. You're right. It's a BMW. Is like people like, oh, like a fancy car. No, like, most drug dealers have that BMW. Like
They like BMWs, Mercedes. They
Yeah.
like luxury cars.
that's their cars. Like they're not rolling. They're not rolling in like brake like a Kia. They're not rolling in no Kia or a Nissan. They're rolling in a.
It's a status.
So I don't want to say like drugs, like I don't, but I just feel like it's a possibility, you know, and that's all my possibility I got. Like that's my only theory that he was there to sell her drugs, but I just want to know what happened in that moment for him to shoot her, and then like because I'm thinking like a drug dealer, they would have the gun on them, right? For him not to have it on him, he felt safe to go talk to her, you know? But something in that conversation made him like, no, like I gotta take her out, which we would never know that conversation. But let's be honest, if he's a drug dealer, he has got caught before, or after she was murdered, he has got caught. So I'm wondering if the police run that DNA again to see if he's in the system, because come on, he had to be in the system. And let me tell you also, that car that he had is gone. That car is gone. Like that's why I think it was hard for them to find that car, because drug dealers watching TV shows, hearing crime shows, after they commit a murder or something like that, that car is gone. They're like selling that car. That car is it's gone. Basically, it's gone. So I think like that's why it's hard to find it. And most drug dealers, that car is not gonna be like in the system. Like they probably bought that car, you know, with the drug dealer money. They're not gonna how we buy our cars. Like
They're not gonna register.
it's not
it
gonna
under
register. Yeah,
themselves.
right. You're right. That's all I got.
Same.
Let me know what you guys think, because I don't want to say that it was about that, but it seemed like it might be a big possibility, and I'm just stuck. So please let me know your theories. Comment below, and I would love to hear you guys' theories. We're on this is our episode. We're on all podcast platforms. We're on social medias. We're on YouTube. So please come like our videos on YouTube. It's a free way to support us. Like, comment, subscribe. That's also a free way, guys. Don't forget, everybody's a suspect.
So proven innocent.
Bye.
Lesbian detective. Unsolved cases. She's still missing. Yeah, they haven't found her yet. Well, let's talk about it.
They say he vanished without a trace. Could it be a psychotic
I
break
don't know.
or a tragic accident? Police don't know where the body went. Unsolved murders, body still missing. That's unheard. Where's the witness? Lesbian detectives, what's going on? City on high alert, this out the norm. He did what, the who? Man, that ain't real, these crimes ain't true. Then come uncover these theories with us. We live right now, tuning in is a must.
Right now. Lesbian detective.